Welcome to our deep dive today. We're going to be going on a pretty fascinating journey
Yeah.
through history, exploring the events that have unfolded on just a single date, November 4th. And get this, our source material is a Wikipedia page,
Okay.
all in Arabic, dedicated to this very date.
Interesting. So instead of just going like chronologically through a timeline,
Yeah.
we're going to be kind of jumping around a little bit, uncovering these surprising connections and echoes across different eras.
Yeah, I love that.
It's kind of like finding hidden patterns
Yeah.
in a tapestry woven through time.
Okay, so let's just jump right in. We're starting in the world of medieval Europe,
Okay.
a time of castles and knights and quite a bit of power grabbing, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And speaking of power grabs, our first stop on this November 4th journey
Okay.
takes us to the births of two kings, both destined for pretty tumultuous reigns.
Okay.
Alfonso II of Naples in 1448 and Edward V of England in 1470.
Okay, Edward V. Now, that's a name that sends shivers down my spine.
Yeah.
Didn't he just disappear under mysterious circumstances?
He did indeed. Edward V became king at the tender age of 12,
Oh, wow.
only to vanish from the Tower of London just a few months later.
Really?
Most historians believe that he was murdered, likely by his own uncle Richard III.
Oh, my gosh.
Talk about family drama.
Wow, what a way to start our deep dive.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that history is full of secrets, even in periods we think we understand.
Right.
Well, so are we ready to leap forward a few centuries?
Let's do it. Our next stop, November 4th, 1911.
Okay.
Now, this date presents a fascinating contrast. On one hand, we have the signing of the Franco-German Treaty,
Okay.
a complex agreement attempting to settle colonial disputes over Morocco and the Congo.
It sounds like Europe was a powder keg back then, with everybody vying for a piece of the colonial pie.
Yeah.
Was this treaty a sign of things to come? I mean, World War I was just around the corner, right?
Exactly. The Franco-German Treaty reflects these rising tensions and imperial ambitions that would ultimately erupt into global conflict. But what's fascinating is that on the very same day, in a completely different part of the world,
Okay.
something remarkable happened.
Okay, you've got me hooked. What else happened on November 4th, 1911?
On that day, in the Valley of the Kings in Egypt, archaeologist Howard Carter
Okay.
stumbled upon something extraordinary: the entrance to Tutankhamun's tomb.
Tutankhamun. Now, that's a name everyone knows.
Right.
I can only imagine the excitement of uncovering a pharaoh's tomb after years of searching.
Yeah.
It must have felt like stepping into another world.
It absolutely was a monumental discovery.
Yeah.
But think about the contrast here.
Mm.
While European powers were busy carving up the world,
Right.
Carter's discovery offered a glimpse into a civilization that had flourished thousands of years earlier.
It's like two completely different ways of looking at power, isn't it?
Yeah.
One focused on domination in the present,
Right.
the other on uncovering the glories of a long-lost past.
It really highlights how different historical forces can be at play, at the same time shaping the world in vastly different ways.
Wow.
Now, are you ready for another jump through time?
I think so.
Because our next stop is a year of intense global upheaval, 1956.
1956. That's right in the heart of the Cold War.
Yeah.
What does November 4th have in store for us this time?
Well, on this date, we see two events unfold that highlight this fragile state of the world and the ever-present threat of conflict.
Okay.
First, we have the Suez Crisis,
Okay.
a conflict that erupted when Israel, along with Britain and France, invaded Egypt to seize control of the Suez Canal.
The Suez Canal. That's a vital waterway, isn't it?
Yeah.
I remember learning about it in school. Control of that canal would have given a huge strategic advantage.
Exactly. The Suez Crisis became a focal point of Cold War tension, with the Soviet Union backing Egypt and the West supporting Israel, Britain, and France.
Oh, wow.
It was a high-stakes game of brinkmanship that could have easily escalated into a much wider conflict.
It's a reminder of how interconnected the world was even back then. A seemingly regional conflict could quickly draw in superpowers,
Right.
with potentially devastating consequences.
Yeah.
So what was the other major event happening on November 4th, 1956?
On the same day, thousands of miles away in Budapest, the Hungarian Revolution reached a tragic climax. What began as a peaceful protest against Soviet domination
Right.
turned into a full-blown uprising with Hungarian citizens demanding freedom and democracy.
I've seen pictures of those protests.
Yeah.
The courage of those people standing up to tanks and soldiers is incredible.
Sadly, the uprising was brutally crushed by Soviet forces.
Oh, wow.
Thousands were killed or wounded, and many more were forced to flee the country.
So on one hand, we have the Suez Crisis,
Right.
a geopolitical struggle for control of a strategic waterway.
Mm-hmm.
And on the other, we have the Hungarian Revolution, a desperate fight for freedom against an oppressive regime.
Both events, though seemingly unrelated, highlight the volatility of the Cold War era
Yeah.
and the constant threat of violence erupting on a global scale.
It's a sobering reminder that even amidst moments of scientific discovery and cultural achievement, the struggle for power and the fight for freedom never really cease.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I need a moment to process all of this. Where are we headed next in our November 4th journey?
Let's shift our focus to the United States, a nation that has seen its fair share of political drama unfold on November 4th.
Right.
We're going to look at 2 presidential elections separated by over half a century that took place on this very date.
All right. I'm intrigued. Give me the rundown. Which presidential elections are we talking about?
First up, we have the 1952 election,
Okay.
which saw Dwight D. Eisenhower, a World War II hero, sweep to victory, ushering in an era of Republican leadership. Then we'll fast forward to 2008 and the historic election of Barack Obama,
All right.
the first African-American president of the United States.
Wow, those are 2 landmark elections, each representing a different era in American history.
Right.
Eisenhower, the war hero, symbolizing strength and stability in the post-war world. And Obama, the charismatic young senator, promising hope and change during a time of economic uncertainty and war.
Exactly. And what's fascinating is that both elections, though, separated by time and circumstance, took place on November 4th.
It's like this date has a special significance in American political history.
Yeah.
It's where moments of transition and transformation seem to converge. Okay, ready for more. What other surprises does November 4th have in store for us? As we're weaving through these pivotal moments on November 4th,
Yeah.
I'm struck by how this date seems to highlight not just political upheaval,
Right.
but also humanity's just relentless pursuit of knowledge.
That's a great observation. And it makes me think about one of our earlier stops, the discovery of Tutankhamun's tomb. That wasn't just about uncovering golden jewels. It was about cracking open a window into a lost world. You know, it fueled a global fascination with ancient Egypt, sparking a wave of research books, movies, you name it.
It's like that discovery reignited our collective curiosity about the past.
Yeah.
And speaking of discoveries that changed the world, November 4th also marks the birth of someone whose work underpins our modern digital lives.
Okay.
Charles K. Cowell, born in 1933.
Ah, Charles K. Cowell. Now, he might not have the name recognition of a king or a pharaoh.
Right.
But his contribution to how we live today is immeasurable.
Yeah.
This is the father of fiber optics we're talking about.
Fiber optic. Okay, I know that's essential for the internet,
Yeah.
but remind me how it actually works.
Imagine this. Tiny strands of glass, thinner than a human hair,
Wow.
carrying pulses of light that transmit information at incredible speeds.
Okay.
That's fiber optics in a nutshell.
Yeah.
And it was Cowell's research that made this all possible.
Right.
He figured out how to transmit light signals over long distances with minimal loss, which was the key breakthrough that led to the development of fiber optic cables.
So without Cowell's work, we wouldn't have the internet as we know it. No streaming movies, no video calls, no instant communication across the globe. It's mind-boggling.
It really is.
Yeah.
It just goes to show how a single person's dedication to scientific inquiry can have a truly transformative impact on the entire world.
Totally.
It also makes me think about the different forms knowledge can take
Right.
and how it's shared.
You're right. It's not just about scientific breakthroughs. It's also about education,
Right.
literacy, and ensuring that knowledge is accessible to everyone.
Yeah.
And speaking of which, November 4th is also the birthday of Laura Bush,
Okay.
former First Lady of the United States, born in 1946.
Laura Bush was a passionate advocate for education, particularly reading and literacy initiatives.
Great.
She firmly believed that education is the foundation
Yeah.
for a strong and vibrant society, empowering individuals to reach their full potential.
I remember her work focusing on children and young adults, promoting reading as a pathway to opportunity.
Yeah.
And it's not just about acquiring facts, is it?
Right.
It's about developing critical thinking skills, fostering creativity, and preparing young minds to engage with the world around them.
Exactly. And that brings to mind another figure born on November 4th who dedicated his life to shaping a nation's future.
Okay.
Amadou Touré, former president of Mali, born in 1948.
I don't know much about him. Tell me more.
Touré was a military leader who played a pivotal role in Mali's transition to democracy in the 1990s. He later served as president, focusing on economic development and peace-building efforts in a region often plagued by conflict.
So we've got a scientist who revolutionized communication,
Right.
a first lady championing education,
Uh-huh.
and a leader guiding a nation towards democracy,
Yeah.
all born on November 4th.
It's remarkable, isn't it?
Yeah.
Each of them, in their own way,
Mhm.
contributed to the advancement of knowledge and its impact on society.
Right.
It underscores how this pursuit of knowledge takes many forms,
Yeah.
from scientific breakthroughs to educational initiatives to political leadership.
Yeah. Now, I can't help but think about the individual lives
Yeah.
woven into this tapestry of November 4th.
Mm.
We've talked about kings and presidents, scientists, and first ladies.
Right.
But what about the artists, the writers,
Yeah.
the musicians who have left their mark on this date?
You're absolutely right. November 4th has seen its share of creative brilliance come and go.
Yeah.
Let's start with someone whose music continues to enchant us today.
Okay.
Felix Mendelssohn, the German composer born on this date in 1809.
Oh, Mendelssohn. His music is just so full of joy and beauty.
It is.
His Wedding March is a classic, and his violin concerto is simply breathtaking.
His work exemplifies the power of music to transcend time and language, speaking to our shared human emotions.
Right.
It's a reminder that art plays a vital role in shaping our understanding of the world and ourselves.
Speaking of art that speaks to the human experience,
Yeah.
November 4th also marks the death of Wilfred Owen, the English poet, in 1918. His poetry captures the horrors of war in a way that few others have been able to take.
Owen's words are haunting and visceral,
Yeah.
painting a stark picture of the trenches, the gas attacks,
Right.
the utter devastation of World War I.
Right.
His poem, Dulce et decorum est, is a powerful indictment of the romanticized view of war, revealing the brutal reality faced by soldiers on the front lines.
It's a reminder that art can also be a powerful tool for social commentary,
Yeah,
challenging our perceptions and forcing us to confront uncomfortable truths.
indeed. And speaking of individuals who challenged the status quo and dared to pursue a different path, we come to Yitzhak Rabin, the Israeli prime minister, who was tragically assassinated on November 4th, 1995.
Rabin was a pivotal figure in the Israeli-Palestinian peace process.
Yes.
Wasn't he a key player in the Oslo Accords, those historic agreements that aimed to bring an end to decades of conflict?
Rabin was a military leader turned peacemaker.
Right.
A man who understood the cost of war and was willing to take enormous risks to achieve a lasting peace. His assassination by a Jewish extremist was a devastating setback for the peace process, and a stark reminder of how deeply entrenched the conflict is.
It's a tragic reminder that the pursuit of peace often comes with great personal sacrifice.
Yeah.
But even in the face of such tragedy, Rabin's legacy inspires us to continue striving for a world where dialogue and understanding can triumph over violence and hatred.
His story, like so many others we've encountered today,
Yeah.
underscores how individuals, through their actions, their choices, and their unwavering commitment to their beliefs,
Right.
can shape the course of history.
Okay, I need a moment to catch my breath. We've covered so much ground in this deep dive.
We have.
From medieval kings to scientific breakthroughs, from political upheavals to artistic legacies.
It's been quite a journey, hasn't it?
It really has.
And as we move towards the final leg of our exploration, I'm struck by how November 4th, this seemingly ordinary date,
Yeah.
reflects the ebb and flow of power dynamics across different eras and regions.
You know, you're right. It's like we've been witnessing a global chess match unfolding.
Yeah.
On this single date, with kings, queens, empires, and revolutionaries all vying for position and influence.
That's a good way to put it.
All right, I'm ready for the final act. Let's see how this theme of power plays out in the last part of our deep dive. Okay, so we're back.
Yeah.
And ready to wrap up our deep dive into November 4th. It's been a whirlwind tour through history, and as we head into this final stretch,
Right.
I'm curious to see how this theme of power dynamics plays out.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah.
We've seen how power has been won, lost, and negotiated on this single date across centuries and continents.
Right.
Remember those medieval kings we started with, Alfonso II of Naples and
Yeah.
Edward V of England,
Yeah.
both born on November 4th?
Yeah.
Their stories were all about the precarious nature of power in a time of shifting alliances and ruthless ambition.
Yeah, especially poor Edward V, locked away in the Tower of London,
Right.
likely murdered by his own uncle. Talk about a power grab.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that power can be fleeting
Mm.
and sometimes even deadly, especially in those days.
Absolutely. And as we move through history, we saw how the quest for power played out on a global scale.
Right.
Think about the Franco-German Treaty in 1911,
Okay.
a scramble to divide up colonial territories in Africa.
Mm-hmm.
It was a time when European empires were at their peak,
Yeah.
competing for resources and dominance on the world stage.
It's a stark reminder of how power dynamics can shape the destiny of entire nations and continents.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there's the Cold War with the Suez Crisis and
Yeah.
the Hungarian Revolution,
Right.
both unfolding on November 4th, 1956.
Yeah, those events were like a high-stakes chess match
Mhm.
between superpowers with the fate of the world hanging in the balance.
Right. The Suez Crisis was all about control of a vital waterway, the Suez Canal,
Uh-huh.
and the clash between Western interests and Egyptian sovereignty.
Right.
Meanwhile, the Hungarian Revolution showed the brutal reality of Soviet power,
Yeah.
crushing a people's desperate bid for freedom.
It's a sobering reminder that the pursuit of power can often come at a terrible human cost.
It really can. And even closer to our own time, we saw how power dynamics continue to shape events in the Middle East.
Hmm.
The 1979 Iran hostage crisis, the 2017 Saudi Arabian purge, the burning of the Iranian consulate in Karbala in 2019.
Right.
These are all reminders of the complex and often volatile nature of power in that region.
You're right. It's a region where religious tensions, political rivalries, and economic interests
Yeah,
all converge, creating a constantly shifting landscape of power.
right. And it's not just about nations and empires. It's also about the individuals who wield power for good or for ill.
Right.
Throughout our exploration, we've encountered leaders like Eisenhower, Obama, Amadou Toumani Touré, and Yitzhak Rabin,
Mm.
each leaving their own unique mark on history.
It's a reminder that power is ultimately wielded by people,
Oh.
and their decisions, both large and small,
Uh-huh.
can have a ripple effect across time.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into November 4th,
Mm.
what's the takeaway? What have we learned about this date, about history, and maybe even about ourselves?
I think what's most striking is how this single date, November 4th,
Yeah,
encapsulates so much of the human experience.
it really does.
We've seen the thirst for knowledge,
Mm.
the struggle for power, the fight for freedom, the beauty of artistic expression,
Right.
and the tragedy of human conflict.
It's like we've been holding up a mirror to history.
Eh.
And what we've seen reflected back at us is both inspiring and unsettling.
Hmm.
But ultimately, it's a reminder that history is not just a collection of dates and events.
Right.
It's a tapestry woven from the lives and choices of countless individuals,
Mm-hmm.
each playing their part in the grand drama of human existence.
And that's what makes exploring history so fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah.
We get to delve into these stories, these moments of triumph and tragedy, and discover how they're all connected in ways we might never have imagined.
You know, this whole deep dive has me thinking about other dates, other seemingly random points on the calendar.
Hmm.
What hidden stories and connections might we find
Right.
if we explored them with the same curiosity and attention?
Exactly.
What about your own birthday
Mm.
or a date that holds personal significance for you?
It's a great question. I encourage you to give it a try.
Yeah.
Pick a date. Do some digging.
Mm.
And see what you discover. You might be surprised at the connections you uncover
Right?
and the insights you gain. Remember, history is not just about the past.
Right.
It's about understanding the forces that have shaped our world and continue to influence our lives today.
Well said. And on that note, we've reached the end of our deep dive into November 4th. Thanks for joining us on this journey through time. Until next time, keep exploring,
Yeah.
keep questioning, and keep discovering the hidden connections that make history so captivating.